We are here today with David Smith, who has just returned from Dunedin, New Zealand, a teeming metropolis in the middle of a huge country.
Yes, both of those statements are slightly inaccurate, but I'll go with it.
Well, you just commented before that your transportation in Dunedin,
Yeah.
was basically confined to what you had a bicycle, though. Did you get that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I got a bicycle, but I lived on top of like a really steep hill, like that. And everyone drives on the left side of the street there, obviously. So I didn't really want to like have to end up in the hospital there. So I just kind of, and I had lots of time, so I just walked most of the time, unless I later found a way to get down the hill on the bike and walk, and rode a little bit on the flat area, but it's pretty small, honestly.
Okay, so I know that when we first invited you to be part of the fellowship, that our residency can be a bit confusing about what you're going to do, and the fact that we route you into so many things that are first-time events, sort of. How did you feel about the structure? Reading your blog, I got some sense, but it seemed to work out well for you.
Yeah, I mean, the structure was really, I was really open to it. I mean, you guys really briefed me a lot beforehand before I signed on to it, so I was sure it was something I was interested in, and I'm at a place right now where I'm interested in trying a lot of new things and sort of getting a wider perspective and learning about the way, what's out there. So I really was just enthusiastic about everything, and as much as possible, and open to whatever I could learn from any given experience. And not discounting anything. It might be something that sounds super interesting versus something that sounds kind of boring, but I've just tried to look to see what I could get out of each one,
I thought Julia took it.
Yeah, and sometimes it would sort of surprise me, and the things that I thought would be kind of run-of-the-mill actually like moved me the most, or maybe confused me the most, or challenged me, So
Give me an example.
Well, one of them was it was just like music therapy workshop at the Choitu Settlers Museum, and I just thought it would be like, I didn't really know, but I guess that's part of it. I didn't really think of it, and then it turned out to be one of the only things that had to do with like Maori culture. I assumed it was going to be like Western music, but it sort of surprised me that I was all of a sudden immersed in this this kind of music that I had never experienced before, and was asked to participate and use words that I didn't know, wasn't familiar with, and so that was an example. Yeah.
One of the things that we have found is that artists have become observers more than participators. And a lot of the program is meant to try to reverse that. Did you find that line of passing from the artist as observer to either the artist as participator or the person as participator, do you know what I'm talking about? It breaks down that wall, because as artists we tend to we'll be the observer rather than the participator. Did you feel that?
Yeah. I mean, I would say so, especially as I'm a photographer in my own work. That's always it's sort of interesting to me. Someone who documents versus someone who's experiencing something and then creating something that represents my experience or the process or something. But I would say one way to answer that would be I realized that I would ask a lot of questions or I was given the opportunity to ask questions of other people's experiences, and and not record them in any way and not do anything with that, but just like kind of learn, or absorb from their experience, how to do something, or something of their knowledge, whether it be the history of the country or their craft or their particular niche. Like I found my curiosity kind of come alive in a way,
Ooh.
But
So reading your blog, one of the things that we want people to do is spend time alone, which you seem to do a fair amount of there.
Yeah.
And walking around, and it's sort of the vertical thinking. You seem to get a lot into your head about what you were doing, why you were doing it, art-wise, which is a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think I sort of asked myself that question when I went there. I want to use this time to question what my what I'm good at, what my work is about. Not specifically like the details, but just the bigger picture. About how I want to make work and what I want to put my energy into. So I went in with that being the question, and I think I kept asking myself that in different ways throughout it.
Yeah, one of the things that happens for people when they go on the residencies, they begin to reassess that Western sensibility of making artwork for galleries to collect, and that kind of closed circle.
Yeah. I mean, no, that was definitely on my mind, or especially being back and being confronted with, the opportunity to make work again, and sort of thinking, well, do I want to be in that world of making works, commodities to be sold to, wealthy individuals to place in their collections or their homes? Is that the best use of my, life?
No, it does. It begins to make it feel small and less relevant than when you're actually doing something and immersed in the new experiences, and you get a sense perhaps of how large the world is. Right. Whereas when you're in New York, you can kind of feel like you're at the center of the art world, whatever that is.
Yeah. No, I mean, I kind of think of like traveling as sort of like almost like triangulating your location. So you kind of need to experience a bunch of different places and different ways of doing things in order to kind of get like a three-dimensional perspective on your own, and also have agency and have choice about what kind of place you want to be in, what kind of way of doing things you want to bring into your repertoire. Mm-hmm. At the moment, because New Zealand is so sort of isolated in a way, and the fact they don't have any borders with any other, obviously being an island, but metaphorically also they're sort of just separate, and not that the separateness in itself is what's interesting. It's more the way it develops a different way of thinking about their position and how they engage with the rest of the world. And I agree, like being in New York, you can kind of get lazy and think that you're in the center of everything and everybody else is looking to you, but then you just maybe start just doing what's expected of you at the center, and there's like kind of a gravity or like a momentum or current, and you just get swept up into it instead of actually making decisions, based on your experience, because your experience just becomes so centered around New York. So, and I think the more wider variety of things you can experience, the more you can take a step back and then choose how you engage with whatever work you might be doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Give me an example of a physical activity that was not something that you would normally do, but did there.
Well, I'm trying to think of the best one, but there wasn't a huge amount of like physical challenges, if you will.
Okay.
But in terms of, unfortunately, my one salsa dancing class was sort of canceled, and that was something I was psyching myself up to like freak out about. I was like, how am I going to deal with the moment when they asked me to loosen my hips, and I didn't get to like confront that moment. But
we've rescheduled for you here.
I'll do it. I'm ready.
But this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about, that, you know, we end up being observers and we stop actually participating. So it's so important to do that because it's kind of a freedom. It frees you up to do these things in the future because you get over that thing. Okay, give me something.
Well, I can give you another example.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it really doesn't matter what the example is. It's just like because it's just somebody asking you to do something and then you doing it without like thinking, why am I doing this, or what's the purpose? So it's like in the musical workshop, for example, I walked in and the chairs were all in a big circle, and so it looked like he was expecting like 20 people, and it was just me. So the first like 5-10 minutes was just us moving the chairs, putting all the chairs away, and rearranging and reorienting the space for whatever we were going to do. And it was like a moment of, and we barely even met, but we were doing something together. We had a common, task together, and so that's just, I should try to think of other examples, but instead of repeating the same one. But yeah, that was a particularly memorable thing, because I think that loosened me up. It said I'm part of this too, and I want to help this person to make. I want this to be an experience for him and for me. He's not. I want to give something back and be participating. So that just kind of set the stage for a really great experience. Yeah.
Did you do any volunteering work there?
Yes, I did. That would be one thing, but I do that all the time. I was painting like a fence, white, which is kind of funny in terms of the art world, but painting wall, But that was crazy. Like I basically met this guy who lives on an island with his family and a bunch of like sheep, and
a lot of sheep.
Yeah, it's like a really small island, and they were the only people on the island. Right. They were the caretakers of an island called Quarantine Island in the bay there, or the harbor, and I guess they allow people to come and volunteer, but really like 90% of the time he was like showing me all over the island, like just talking. He like made me lunch, then he was like, okay, we're gonna go do some work now, and we scraped and painted this railing on the dock where the boats come in, and it was hard because I was like, I better work really hard to get to make my time, all his time, worth something, So I went kind of into like overdrive and was like painting like crazy. Yeah.
So you really felt a strong sense of purpose and obligation with the people that you met to give them something as well, yeah?
Yeah, because I felt it was really generous of them to offer just, to inform me or give me something new and different. I think that's really the most valuable, gesture. So, and to welcome me into their space so I always tried to make it rewarding, at least if in any way I could for them.
We all want to be liked.
Yeah.
And you felt that, not to make that generalization, but New Zealanders generally start off pretty friendly.
Yeah, generally.
Yeah, I find in Australia and New Zealand, if you write a letter, dear Mr. Smith, da 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 da, da, signed Stephen, and it comes back, hey Steve,
Right. Yeah.
you know, always in a very informal way. And did you feel that informality pervade your interactions with people there?
Yeah, I mean, not always, but I did notice that, especially like even just getting into the airport there, and the people that work at the airport they're not all like militaristic, like, you know, like angry, like people, you know,
Here.
yeah, here, and they're just like, hey mate, you know, how's it going? How's your day? And you're like, oh, what? Me? Oh, I'm okay. And then, you know, and they're using like slang and stuff in the airport, you know. But in terms of the people, yeah, I mean, there's a certain reservedness as well, like a sort of a quietness. People don't necessarily talk to you, or kind of keep a little distance. But so it's not. But I know you're talking about kind of casualness. It's not as business-like as New York. And
It's sort of California-ish
yeah,
in a way. People are wearing O'Neill sunglasses and surfing, and you kind of get some of that vibe.
yeah, especially the slang that they use. It's like surfing kind of slang, and yeah, and the climate itself is sort of reminded me of California in a lot of ways. But yeah, I mean, it reminds me of another time when I went to a small town. We went on a little drive, and there was like sort of a pub that was frequented by mostly by farmers, and so me and Zena and her boyfriend walked in, and they were so friendly that it almost like was off-putting, because we weren't really ready for it. You know, it was like we walked in the door, and people were just like, "Oh, hey, sit down. How are you? What's going on? Where are you from?" And we were just like, "Oh, we're gonna go outside for a second," and then it was and then the bartender made some joke that none of us got, so we didn't laugh, and it was just. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's sometimes politeness and, you know, professional and like anonymity is good. Just being there, it was so small, and you start running into the same people like the second day, and which I think affects the way people behave with each other too. You know, just, you know, you kind of can't. You gotta be nice to everybody, because you're going to see them every day. You know, so that could be part of what you're talking about too. The smallness of the country and we all have to get along kind of energy. I don't know.
Nice. Food and custom. Anything of particular interest that you aren't used to here? Social activity or?
Well, I mean, as far as food goes, I mean, I don't really know how to answer it, but it's just New York has so many types of food, and they don't have nearly as many like varieties and options, and it seems kind of like, you know, pared back, almost more like England or something, you know, that British kind of food. But in terms of, I don't really know. I mean, they had they have a really like big milk producing like industry, and so you can get like
Cows
like,
or goats?
cows. Yeah.
Okay.
And they have just cheese, on lots of cheese and everything. And you can get like a thing of cheese like this big for like $6, you know. And
I read one thing in your blog where you went shopping and got bread and cheese and something. I don't remember where, but I mean, I was right there thinking, God, that must have been good.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I find when you travel and you like kind of change the way your expectations for food and stuff. Like, I didn't really want to go out to restaurants, so I just kind of made basic things. They have really good apples there, amazing, and obviously the little pies, you know, those like kind of like savory meat pie type things.
I'm not a meat eater, so when I travel, I lose a lot of
Yeah.
cultural opportunity.
Yeah. They eat a lot of meat there too. Although I did meet some vegetarians and vegans and stuff, but not as many. And I don't really know. I mean, it's really not that. In terms of social customs, it was like kind of the same, but just slightly different. But it's hard to kind of put my finger on what that would be.
An interesting anomaly that I found when I was there was aggressive driving. Did you encounter this at all? It was an odd situation because it seemed out of place.
I think I know what you mean, yeah. Yeah, I don't think pedestrians have the right of way there, I learned, unfortunately.
Glad you made it back.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm gonna walk across the street, and this car just slammed the horn on and just was like, get out of my way. And I was like, oh, you mean you would actually run me over rather than slow down? And yeah, I didn't expect that, because it seems so, like you said, laid back and relaxed and nice, but then people drive kind of angrily, and like they really want to get there fast.
Yeah, it really struck me as incongruous with the general temperament that I felt, which was calm as a lamb.
Yeah, I think there's something going on. I don't think it's all as it appears, you know. I think people have layered personalities, and they're probably, you know, repressing
And getting into cars gives them the license.
Yeah, there was a car accident that was really sad when I was there. Like two people who had rented sets of tourists who had rented cars actually crashed into each other, and all died or something. But yeah, because the roads are really like dangerous and like really curvy, and like there's like steep fall offs, and there's not really railings or anything in New Zealand as far as I can.
They won't let you pass.
No?
Even if you're going up a hill and there's a little Fiat going very
they won't
slow,
let you pass, yeah.
they won't let you go around. If you try and go around, they'll move out, so you can't.
When did you go there? When was that?
Oh, it's going to be probably 6 years.
And were you in the same general area, or?
We drove north and south, so we drove all over the country, but we didn't have the infrastructure that you did at all. It was prior to our outgoing residency, so I wasn't there to set things up. Now when we travel, it's much different, because we travel, that is Apex as well as myself, we travel the way we send you. So it's more about experiencing things now rather than going to the art world and going to galleries and museums. Only because when you're in New York, you tend to see an awful lot of things, and it's not that you're not going to see something interesting if you go to a gallery or a museum, but it means you won't see something else if you've got a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
And like, what is the? Is it fish and chips or something?
Oh yeah. What is it?
That's. I mean, if you're walking around and you need a lunch during the day.
Yeah, I don't know. Fish and chips is a little overwhelming. It's like really just like fries and fried fish. I think it's better if you're like hungover or something, and you just want some heavy like comfort food. But no, they have like little like toasted sandwiches and stuff like that are really good, and like they have flat whites, which are like kind of like cappuccinos, but somehow I think because of the milk, maybe, I don't know, it's like even better. But so that would be kind of my go-to lunch. There's a lot of sandwiches, not a lot of salad places, which is actually fine. But a lot of like pressed sandwich type things. And but going back to what you were saying about art and traveling, that's one thing I sort of realized is that when art, the experience of viewing art is can be like a stand-in for like experiencing something new. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like a weird, not placebo, but like, like an empty kind of, I mean, not always empty, but you walk into a gallery and you receive like an experience like I'm doing something different. Something's going to show me something that I didn't know already. So in a way, art can become like a stand-in for experience and experiencing something real, where there's really something at stake. And because when you go into a gallery, nothing's gonna, start talking to you or ask you to do something that you don't want to do.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was one thing I realized is like both making and seeing art is like kind of the shadow of interaction or of like experiencing something new and different. So, and it's like a comfortable space, that we're all artists are sort of used to doing.
As an artist, you can't really reference other art in the same way you can reference other experience. And if you stay too much in the art world, you don't have those experiences about which to make art that really, I think, enrich your life. So we're hoping that the things that we sent you to, something will be catalytic and will work its way into your work in some capacity, and not even in a traditional sense of, here's an object I saw and now it's manifesting in my work. But the value system that we find people tend to question when they're either here on a fellowship or away, because it gets them a little bit out of that comfortable art thing and referencing everything in art, and to seeing that there are so many other possibilities to incorporate into your work. But then you're left with a conundrum: what structure does your work take so that you're still accepted in the art world?
Yeah.
And this, I think, is one of the things that many of the fellows deal with, I think we all deal with now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, to the first part of what you're saying about absorbing your experience and then using it in some way, I mean, I definitely was, I actually sort of find it the opposite, that I find it easier to, well, maybe, I don't know, like easier to reference things in art than, maybe that's what you said, than my own experience. And I think it has something to do with the like consequences of displaying your own experience, potentially because other people are involved in that, and not really knowing how to represent their images or their information regarding them like in a responsible way. So I think a lot of it, especially with the blog, for me, which I kind of found to be, writing this blog to be like sort of like the secret genius part of it, which was like trying to help me find a voice relating to my own experience. So I found I struggled with how to relate my experiences to an audience, and how to structure them so that it was a story that was compelling in some way, rather than just a direct retelling of my mental process, but trying to structure it and use my experience and arrange it so that it told a story of some sort. and I went through ups and downs of wanting to reveal things, not wanting to reveal things. And at one point, somebody said, "Well, that's your experience. You own that. You don't have to feel bad about sharing what what's inside you." So that was one step among others. And then in terms of being accepted by the art world, I really don't. I mean, I want to have commercial success, but honestly, I know that I wouldn't ever do any. I want to make work that I like, and that I think contributes something and means something to me, and then that's the first step. So that's what I'm working on.
I find sometimes that people are not as fixated on the idea of success that we have, and you'll go somewhere and you'll find a frustration that they're not in New York, because they're looking toward wanting to do something, but there's also a nice sense of pursuing something that is more personalized because they don't have the pressure of conforming to something that looks like art here, or they're personalizing their work because they're not selling and it's not as much of a risk.
Yeah, I mean, it's only natural to, as I said, it's your work is related to your experience, and if you're not surrounded by people constantly hustling to show and going to shows every day, like, you're not going to think about that, and that energy is going to go into your work, which is not, yeah. So, but I think like that's why people are like, I want to be in New York, because they have this thing they want to share, but no way to share it, and it's kind of sad. I mean,
and it often kills the situation when people do come, because it's pretty hard to swim against the current here.
Yeah. No, I mean, I wish art was. I mean, that's the thing about art objects, is they're hard to move around. But if they could just stay there and just ship them on over, and stay doing their thing. But I mean, then again, that's not really the point. But it's. Yeah, I mean, I think. You would think in today's. I mean, I guess that's what one of the things you realize is traveling, like being physically in a place, is still very vital, even though you have art forum and the internet and everything, sharing everything everywhere. I don't know. I mean, we're not in a virtual world yet, so I guess. But yeah, I mean, I think it makes you question that too. Like, why is everyone making these objects, and is physical travel, really going to keep being as important as culture kind of flattens in a way, and travel.
Depends how you travel and why. Most of the time when artists travel, they don't do anything like you did. They stay very close to the art world and to that comfort level.
Right. Yeah.
And it's nice to feel that the center of the world is wherever you are. Rather than always thinking it's dislocated somewhere else. Okay, good. Christchurch, freaked you out? No?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, I actually felt like kind of comfortable there in a way, but
Why?
I don't know, like, just it was sort of a relief to see a place that wasn't really functioning. New York is such a model of functionality, problem solving, and selling, and people were just like, you would bring up Christchurch and people would say, well, nothing's really happening there. They have a lot to do to get back to normal, and I think like a lot of people left. So I mean, I was telling Zena that I don't know why yet, but there's like the me that before seeing Christ Church and after, because it was just, I mean, talking about experiences or that were unfamiliar. It's like just seeing something, just taking something for granted, like a city, and then the whole city just is totally just not. It's like somebody just took it apart, and all the pieces are just lying everywhere, and you walk around and there's nothing going on. So yeah, it made me just say, wow, like I take a lot for granted, and everything could just be taken away, you know, like overnight. So, and talking to people. That was one time where I was talking about asking questions, like saying, where were you, you know, when this happened? How did this affect your life? What, you know, how did you deal with your emotions afterward of losing everything? And were you scared, or, you know, how did this affect your work? And did other people in the world come here to learn something from what happened? And I think that might be an example of, you know, how this might affect my work, but obvious't I just got back, so I have no idea how, but I know it, yeah, in terms of trauma and memory and how that affects, you know, creativity in the future, and just how, you know, just the psychological profile of like post-traumatic, you know, experiences is interesting to me. So yeah, I think I felt comfortable because I guess I have an apocalyptic kind of side of my imagination. So yeah.
Was there either a most asked question of you, or was there a way that you kind of initiated situations? You know, did you learn how to kind of, okay, I'm meeting a new person, and the best way to do that is to say.
No, I mean, I think it naturally occurred, like kind of like muscle memory, which I was like, wow, I've never met this person, but we're talking, because I'm kind of a shy, reserved person but I was like, and then you learn that there are a lot of questions you can ask a stranger that they'd be happy to talk about, and you kind of learn where that line is of, you know, you don't say, so where do you live? You might say, what neighborhood are you from? You know, or you say, where did your parents come from? Or, you know, and it kind of is these questions that are like open doors for them to interpret how they want. Right. And yeah, I did get better at that. Yeah, it was awesome. And
that's an important thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that we send people to meet with people that they don't know can be a very difficult situation for a lot of people. What am I going to talk about? What are the expectations? So on and so forth. But it's kind of a process that at the end, as you referenced muscle memory, we find that it encourages people to have these experiences, you know, again, more of an opening, because you find that the situation generally works better, you know, works well, and is fun.
Yeah, it is. It can be fun, not just stressful and terrifying to meet strangers. Yeah.
So, in summing up, we'll let you go. Is there any overreaching observation that you had from as simple as you like New Zealand, or it gave you a new sense of how you might travel in the future, which of course would be our ideal, but throwing that to you.
Well, Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised that you travel that in that way. Like, actually, do you actually schedule things ahead and all that and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Or, yeah, I mean, I never really would consider traveling that way, but at the same time, I don't think it's just traveling, but it's just moving through the world in a more aware way, not giving precedence to artists and not seeing artists as more like me than other people are like me, or just because someone's an artist doesn't mean that I have any values in common with them. I'm realizing.
That's right.
And yeah, not being, I mean, I guess, so in terms of traveling, yeah, I mean, I liked the idea of doing challenging things and sort of putting priority on my experience, and in a kind of taking minor things seriously, like, maybe just going for a walk in a park isn't just like a break between, two important museums, but maybe there's something to be learned there too. Yeah.
Can we hope that you will continue to do those kinds of things here? Because there's so much here that we send fellows that come in that we don't go to. We can satisfy some of our vicarious nature by sending other people to things that we should go to. And it makes us feel a bit better, but it doesn't accomplish it. And we try to do that more here, not to just go to art things, but there's so much happening here that you miss if you don't look for them and do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can count on it. Yeah, and it's sort of like, again, muscle memory. Like, I have a curiosity, to do things outside of my comfort zone, because I know I can now.
Risk is, I mean, we're not doing brain surgery. Nobody does.
Yeah.
Well, great. It seems like you took advantage of the situation, which makes us happy, and that it was a self-building situation.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I feel about it, and hopefully self and also my ability to communicate and engage with others also is improved. So,
well,
yeah.
We appreciate Zena's input into the program and Larissa's planning of the program, your participation in the program. We will ask you in a month for comments. We will ask you in 6 months for comments. And we'll revisit it in a year, and we'll probably invite you to lunch with other residents too.
Okay, yeah. No, thank you guys very much. And I think it's a really, really strong program. So I really appreciate being able to do it. Yeah. Thanks.
Our pleasure. That's a wrap.